G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Sam. If you're new here, it's a pleasure to have you here practicing yoga with us today. If you would be so kind, if it's your first time visiting the channel, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Trying so hard to get some more eyes on these videos. It's really challenging. Everyone's screaming out for yoga, but it's really hard to get some new traffic towards the channel. So if you could do that tiny thing for me, I would be greatly appreciative. And hopefully you brought your legs with you today. We are going to work on some active hip mobility. You won't need any props for today's practice, just yourself and your legs. I hope you brought them with you. It's not a long practice, but we will fire up the legs really quickly. As always, you know the drill. When you're ready, we'll get right into it. So we'll get right into the work today. The practice will be short, but it will be a doozy, I promise you that. We're going to sit back on the heels, tuck the toes under. If you can, resist the urge to fall forward. Let your spine be tall. Rest your hands, interlace your fingers in your lap. For a moment, let the eyes soften shut. Feel the stretch through the bottoms of your feet. Muscles, tendons and ligaments of the feet starting to feel a little more length. Trying to allow your breath to remain calm throughout the entirety of this practice. Maybe spinning your heels gently away from each other to feel that stretch a little more underneath your smaller toes, fourth and the fifth toe. Allowing the heels to shift towards each other as you lean back ever so slightly to feel that stretch more underneath your big toe. And take one last breath here. Now, to begin, we'll have the fingertips just resting either side of the hips. We're going to lean back slowly just to lift the knees off the mat. So we're balancing on the balls of the feet here. Trying to increase this ankle flexion, the dorsiflexion of the ankle. So keep the heels floating for the moment, but just let your chest, your belly rest a little closer towards your thighs. If that feels comfortable for you, I encourage you to let your heels drop. Still trying to stay with the hips lifting off the floor if you can. You can let your arms rest wherever, just for the moment. Just getting comfortable with the flexion through the ankles, the compression of the torso nice and close to the thighs. If that feels comfortable, again, you can use your fingers this first round. We just lean forward, see if the heels will lift, and then without smashing the kneecaps on the floor, gently let them lower down. And then we lift up. Nice one. From here, untucking your toes, sending your hips back towards your heels. And again, first round we'll use the fingers, but we will work to do this without the use of the hands. Lean back slowly to lift the knees. Have the thighs squeezing towards each other. Keep your chest lifting, shoulder blades drawing slightly back. And as we settle back down, we'll return to where we began. So, toes will work to tuck under. This time we want the hands to do as little as possible. You could interlace your hands in front of you. You could have your hands resting on your hips, whatever works for you, but we'll try our hardest not to let the hands touch the floor. So to demonstrate first round, I'm just going to have my arms hanging down by the side. Start from your toe sit. We're going to lean back slowly and see if you can gently just hover your knees off the mat. Balancing on the balls of the feet, seeing what that sensation feels like without using the hands. And then if it's there for you, let the heels rest onto the floor without the bottom dropping. Nice work. Then we reverse the process. So we lean forward, the heels rise, we gently let the knees rest down to the floor. We lift the hips, squeeze the glutes, press the pelvis forwards, then untuck the toes. Sit back onto the heels, lean back slowly to lift the knee. Nice work. So if that worked with arms by the side, this time we'll try with fingers interlaced, resting against the lap. We'll let the knees soften down and return. So come to your toe sit. Stand up nice and tall. And when you're ready, Hands doing as little as possible. We lean back, see if the knees can levitate. Then from there, rest the heels onto the floor. Hands can just be in front of the knees here. And gently lean forward, heels rise, lean back, knees drop. Lift the hips, squeeze the glutes, and then untuck the toes. Hips back to heels. We lean back to hover the knees. We're going to repeat that process 2 more times. So restarting in your toe sit. When you're ready, we go for it. So we lean back slowly, knees hover. Then from there, heels drop. Lean forward, heels rise. Lean back, knees drop. Then hips lift, squeeze the glutes. Untuck your toes, hips to heels. Lean back slowly, hover, hover, hover your knees. And then we'll reset. Final time now. So from your toe sit, lean back slowly, knees hover, heels drop. Heels hover, knees drop. Hips lift, untuck the toes. And hips back to heels, lean back, knees lift, 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 lift. And then set the knees down, set the hands down. Let's take it back to downward facing dog. It will feel great just to pedal out through the feet for a moment. Nice work. So already your feet, your ankles are absolutely working. We are going to get into some active hip mobility. So if you're ready, come along for the journey. Pause in the dog. Take an inhale. Gentle breath out. Then inhale to reach your right leg up towards the sky. Try and keep the foot super active, flexing towards you. As it rises, we'll externally rotate, open the right hip out towards the right hand side. Now with the foot flexing and the leg nice and straight, we're going to lift up as high as we can onto our left toes. Start to open our right leg wide to the right hand side of the room. And as you roll your hands forward into a plank position, we're going to try and bring the right leg forward as far as we can without the foot touching the mat. Let it hover, 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 hover. And then take it back up towards the sky. Nice work. Lucky us, we get to do that 2 more times. So open the right hip, externally rotating. Lift up high on the left toes. Open that right leg out to the right hand side. Roll forward via your plank position. Keep that right foot hovering, hovering, hovering. And then take it back up towards the sky. Whew. Nice one. Take a breath. Let it out. And then we go again. Roll the right hip open. Lift up high on the left toes. Open the right leg out to the right hand side. Shift forwards, hover, 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 hover. Come high on the left toes and then set the right foot down. Bend the right knee. You'll find yourself in a lizard lunge. We'll pop onto the fingertips here. Keep the back knee lifting high away from the floor. And just shift forwards and back on the ball of the left foot. So from this space, we're going to try and keep this back leg nice and long, knee lifting off the floor. Just fall off onto the outside edge of your right foot and start to walk both hands off towards the left-hand side of the room. Sending the hips off towards the right as you walk those arms out towards the left. Keep lifting that left knee away from the floor. Take a breath. And then come back through center. This time we're going to pivot the right toes to the right-hand side. Roll off onto the outside edges of both feet. Push through your left hand. Reach your right arm back behind you. And if there's space, set your right fingertips behind your hips. So that right knee is trying to open away from you. Left leg is straight, left knee lifting off the floor just a little. Take a breath. And come around through center. Taking this towards a Skandasana on the left leg, so bending in to your left knee. Letting your right foot remain flat for a moment. Lifting that chest halfway. So think about your chest being parallel to the floor here. Having the toes turning out wider than the heels. And as you start to find a little bit of depth into that left leg, let the left knee open away from us. Hover the hands off the mat. If you can, take the arms out wide. Just make a fist, or 2 fists rather. So you're keeping those legs nice and active. We're going to work to slowly elevate the right toes off the mat, flex them towards, and then as you sit deeper into your left hip, reach your fist out in front of you. As the chest starts to rise, if there's space, set the hips down. And then let your left knee drop towards the top of the mat. Let your chest turn towards the front of the room. Still keeping those fists if we can, and to the best of our ability, having the right toes pointing up towards the ceiling. From here, if there's space, keep the left leg in this exact same shape. Just see if you can let your left leg hover, flexing the left foot, trying not to fall off completely onto that right hip. Compressing into your left side obliques, feeling that left leg rise. Now this is the fun part. You're going to extend your left leg, pivot the toes up to the ceiling, extend the leg out to the front of the room, and then lift it as high as you can, bend the left knee, and set the left foot down. Nice work. We'll find a gentle twist. So lift the torso upright, turn the hands towards the left-hand side of the room, then set your left hand down behind you, right elbow outside the left thigh. We lift the chest gently. Take a moment of rest here in the twist. Last breath in. And we'll hover the hands back off the mat. Turn your torso to the front of the room, and we'll reverse that entire process. So lift the left foot off the earth, straighten your left leg, and start to open the left leg out towards the left-hand side of the room. It's hovering, it's hovering, it's hovering. Then we'll bend the left knee. Leg is still hovering, and then set your left knee down. Nice work. Right toes pointing up towards the ceiling. We're going to lift the left knee off the earth, lean the weight forward, see if your hips can rise off the mat, and then walking ourselves around to the top of the mat. Back leg will straighten, front knee will bend. We'll come around towards a lunge, lift the back heel off the mat, set the left knee down. From here, pivoting right foot over towards the left-hand side of the mat, using the fingertips to start with, finding a pigeon pose setup. Think about your right thigh moving out towards the right-hand side, your right shin, maybe 45-degree angle across the mat. Find some flexion in that right ankle and then extend your left leg back behind you to the best of your ability. Once you feel comfortable here in this space, we'll untuck our left toes, lift our left knee in the air, and with the chest as lifted as is possible in this moment, we'll float the hands off the mat and again make fists out to either side of the room. So back knee is lifting, left hip is wrapping forward. Take an inhale. On your exhale, lean your chest out in front of you. See if your forehead can tap the floor. And then we'll lift back up. Take a breath. Exhale, we lower. We rise. Take a breath. Exhale, we lower. And we rest. So left knee will ground down now. Reach the arms out in front of you. Give yourself a moment to be in the pigeon. Still keeping activity in the back leg, maybe left glute flexing, top of left foot pressing down. And activity in the right foot, a little flexion through that right ankle joint. Take one last breath. And again, reversing the process. Let's take the arms out to the side, make a fist, push through the top of your left foot, lift your left knee, then drive through your right shin to lift your chest back up. Set the hands down flat onto the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, then come back, downward facing dog, little pedal out through the feet. Now, good news is we're done with the right side. Unfortunately, I have to tell you we've got to do the left side now. Now, I know for myself, every time I practice hips, the imbalance between the left and the right side is really, really apparent. So it may be the same for you, just know that's completely fine. It doesn't mean you're an alien or anything like that. We all have our imbalances, so just embrace them. Once you find stillness there in your shape, you're going to let the inhale reach the left leg up and back behind us. Flex the toes. Then hip will roll open. We'll keep the leg straight, the foot flexed.
Start to open the left leg out towards the left-hand side as you roll forwards into that plank shape. Keep your back heel rising high. Lean forward, we hover, and then we reach the leg back up. Breath in. Then we go again. We open the hip, keep the foot flexing. Open the leg out to the left-hand side. Move forwards, we hover. Then we go again. Last time. Take an inhale. Exhale, we open. We externally rotate and take that left leg out to the left-hand side. We roll forward, press through the hands. We lift up high on the right toes. We hover, and we set the left foot down. Wow, that one's always super intense. Come onto the fingertips. Just shift the weight back and forwards for a moment on the ball of your right foot. We'll start to fall off onto the outside edge of the left foot. Walk the hands off towards the right-hand side of the mat. Lean the hips out to the left. As the hands move to the right, keep that back knee lifting here. And as we walk hands back to center, we pivot left toes out to the left-hand side. Fall off onto the outside edges of both feet. Start to reach the left arm back behind you. Again, if there's space, maybe left fingertips rest behind your hips. Keep the right knee lifting away from the floor, the left knee moving away from you. Take a breath. Then exhale. Take ourselves around to Skandasana, bending into the right knee. To start with, keeping left foot grounding flat, toes wider than the heels. Moment to find your halfway lift. When you feel ready, hands float off the mat. We make fists and we go for it. Left toes lift off the mat. Reach the fist out in front of you as you sit deep into your right hip. We let the hips rest on the floor. From here, start to drop your right knee towards the top of the mat. Turn your torso towards the front of the room. Try and point left toes up towards the ceiling. Like we did before, we're going to do our very best not to completely fall off onto the left hip. It will happen a little, that's completely natural. We work to hover the right leg. Keep flexing that right foot actively. Feel the action through the outside of the right hip. Then from this space, we extend the right leg. Toes point up to the ceiling. We bring the leg to center. We lift. Then we bend the right knee. Set the right foot outside the left thigh. Turning torso off to the right-hand side. Right hand grounds behind. Left elbow rests outside the right thigh. Gentle twist over your right shoulder. Take an inhale. And reversing the process. Turning torso towards the front of the room. Hovering right foot, straightening right leg, lift. Then open that right leg out to the right-hand side. Keep the foot hovering off the mat as best you can. And then rebend the right knee. Still hovering the leg. Sit up tall. And then set that right leg down. Opening, lifting that right knee away from the floor. Reaching the fist out in front of you, leaning forward to lift the hips. And then taking yourself around towards the top of the mat, finding a lunge, back heel rises, we set the back knee down. Nice work. We have pigeon pose to go. So shuffle that left foot over towards the right-hand side of your mat. Use your fingertips to prepare. Set yourself. Left shin, 45-degree angle. Think about your left heel lining up somewhere around your right hip joint. Right leg extending long and strong behind us. Top of right foot will press down, right knee will lift in the air. And you work to lift your chest. And when you feel set, float the hands, make fists. Let's go for it. Take a breath. Exhale, we lean out. So really drive down through the top of that right foot and feel the right glute flexing. Then we rise. Take an inhale. Exhale, we lower.
and we rise. Take an inhale. Exhale, we lower. Lift it back up. Take a breath. Exhale, we lower, we lower, we lower. And we rest. Reach the arms out in front. Really send those hips back in space. Let your breath begin to settle. Take one last breath. Let it out. And then we reverse. Take arms out to the side, make a fist. Press the top of the right foot down, lift the right knee, and then drive through your left shin to lift. Nice work. Hands ground, back toes tuck. We lift the back knee. Come back towards downward facing dog. Give those feet a chance to pedal out. Really well done. I know your hips are absolutely working. We're going to come down onto the bottom here. If you want to, we can take a little hop, working to land the feet wider than the hands. Absolutely. If you want to, you can simply step up. If you're hopping, I invite you to try and land with your heels first. So palms ground flat after you rise. Heels land. Toes land. Sit the hips down nice and low. So you come towards your malasana shape. Hopefully the hips are a little more open now. Maybe the knees can open a little bit wider. You can reach the arms out in front of you, and if it's available, we set the hips onto the floor. Making fists with the hands. We're going to take the heels out wide, flex the feet towards you. Then from this space, we're working to pivot on the heels, so dropping both knees off towards the right hand side. Just reaching those fists out over the direction of your left knee. And then we'll come back through center. Pivot on the heels, let the knees drop off to the left. Nice one. Then we'll start to speed up that process. So again, just pivoting on the heels, lifting up and over to other side. If you want your hands to do less, like we did at the beginning of practice, you can just interlace your fingers in front of you. Just working to pivot on the heels. So this will take us towards the end of practice. Just going to splash on one little extra piece. Next time you arrive with both knees falling off to the right hand side, if you can, push down through the inside of that left knee. See if the left foot can hover and lift off the mat. So keep the foot flexing. It may lift a little, it may lift a lot. Doesn't really matter. If we're going for it, we're still working the muscles, whether it lifts or doesn't. Then soften the foot back down. Pivot on the heels. Allow both knees to fall off to the left. Then drive down through that right knee. See if the right foot will lift. Will lift, will lift. Still trying to keep the chest lifted here if we can. Lifting, lifting, lifting. And then soften, knee back down. Reset. One more time to either side. Knees fall off to right. Left knee presses down. Left foot lifts. Lifts, 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 lifts. If you can, lift the knee as well. If that works, extend the leg. Keep your chest lifting, lifting, lifting. Rebend the knee. Set the knee down. Set the foot down. Whew. Really starting to feel it now. Pivot knees up and over towards the left. Drive down through the right knee. See if right foot will lift. Will lift, will lift, will lift. See if right knee can lift. Lift, 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 lift. If that works, extend the leg. Keep it hovering, hovering, hovering. And then re-bend the knee. Set the knee down. Set the foot down. And come back through center. Take the soles of your feet together. Shuffle your hips back in space. Then interlace your fingers around your toes. And fold over your thighs. Take a last breath there. And
gently. Beginning to rise up. Take the hands behind you, just extend the legs out long in front and give them a shake. So hopefully by now, like myself, you're starting to feel that. The hips are working. Now, that's not to say it's going to feel fantastic. If you've never done anything like this before, the hips will feel really, really fatigued, really tight, maybe really creaky. But this is something that obviously gets better the more you do it. So keep this practice, save it in your playlist, come back to it maybe once a week just to really test the hips and see how they're going. As always, I encourage you, if you like practicing, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment below. Thank you so much for joining me here on the mat. Of course, as always, I'll see you again soon. Peace.